Okay, now that I have a little bit more time, I can do more videos. So, I want to talk about, and I'm just quickly, because I just got into it with the whole Cole Fonseca video. I'm actually not trying to slander people in town. I'm not mad. There's stuff going on here and in other towns, but especially Visalia. And if you move here from another city, people will trip out, like especially people from LA, San Francisco, they trip out on this town because something's not right. When I was going to Radiant Church, they were talking about it all the time. I mean, like, this guy's crying, like, something's not right. We can all feel it. Something's not right. And I'm like, oh my God. And then, like, they just put a Band-Aid on it. But we can fix it. It can be fixed. But so today I'm going to talk about, I do not know the name of the school. I will find out the name of this school. But there is a school in town ran by a former Golden West history teacher who was my world history teacher, who his last name is Ainley. We'll just call him Mr. Ainley. And he has a wife named June. And they did a History Makers Conference in 2001. Yeah, 2001 I think it was. It may have been 2000, but I think it was 2001. And in this History Makers Conference, a friend of mine, I just met her. At this time, I think we met at like a Billy Graham crusade, and or Franklin Graham concert. So anyways, I met her there, and then we started I went to a black church, primarily a black church, and it was ran, even if there were white people or Mexican people there, it was like shit ran by a black church. I mean, like, the pastor would be like, Lord Jesus! And he would, like, kick his leg out, and I want to tell you how my Lord's been. I mean, there was a lady that wore a plate on her fucking head, like, straight up yellow, your weave glued in, like, I mean, this was like, you know, it was an awesome church. But in any case, we had to have the building fun, you know, the whole thing, you know. So, but they actually rented in that Mormon church, and I loved that church. And so I brought her to that church with me, and then she had been going to Savior's, and so I knew that church well, and so I was like, well enough, and so I was like, oh, you know, let's go together, we'll go to the high school college group that they were doing. And so, and you have to understand, like, I'm going to a high school college group. I already have, like, a child, already been married. You know, I was married before I got pregnant, all that type of stuff, you know, all that type of stuff. My ex-husband had already gotten out of the military. So I was just living a different life. And so I went, and, you know, I just been different my whole life. I just don't accept things because people said something to me. I ask a lot of questions. I'm very annoying, I would think, to leadership and rule makers. Because I have questions. I have, like, lipstick. I just want to make sure. Because I put it on recently. It'll get, like, stuck. Revlon Color Stay. It's like 48-hour lipstick. So, in any case, so basically, we went to this History Makers Conference, and during this, and I'll do a background on Tim, or Mr. Ainley, but I'll do something about just a background on that after, but let me just tell you what happened. So my friend Heather, I don't want to get too much of her personal life to protect her privacy. She owns her and her husband run a site now called Porn Scars. I think it's called Porn Scars. And she's really a special chick. And it was her and I that when we got baptized by this church in the ocean, that when we came out of the water, and they snapped the picture, we had gigantic angel wings because the water had crashed just right behind us. And they snapped the picture, and we just had these gigantic wings. They were white and everything. It was like, awesome. And, but she had a really rough past, obviously. I mean, you could probably go to Porn Scars and read her past, according to her, which I would recommend that. And so she had been going through just a lot of different abuse and confusion and different things and guilt and stuff. And when we were at this History Makers Conference, she was crying a lot. And Mr. Ainley, he came up to her and he started to, like, do an exorcism on her. And he was holding her down. She's 18. He's like, she had like a little skirt on and like a tank top. She always wore like pretty much the same clothes, just kind of preppy, just, you know, khakis and stuff, khaki skirts and cute little tops. She drove a little bug. And she used to come over and paint with my daughter. She was not possessed. And he was like doing a exorcism on her, and he was holding her down. She was screaming, "Let me go, don't hold me down, please stop." And he was treating it like it was a possession, and he was like whispering in her ear and doing all this stuff. And then because she's crying so hard and she's struggling to break free from being held down, she throws up, and like white foam throw up because her stomach was empty, you know, came out of her mouth. And then people are like really entertained. By this point, people are really gotten their money's worth at the door at the convention center. Now we get to see an exorcism, and I'm standing there like, this doesn't seem right, because she's saying, "Let me go." She's not, "Let me go," and her eyes are like, you know, purple. Like, I mean, she's like, she seemed like herself. Like, she didn't want to be held down, you know, like, you know, if you hold your kid down. And so I was like, you know, I don't know. It was just really weird. And then they took her into a back room. Like, the convention center has like a central area, and then like in the back there's like individual little rooms. They were doing like prayer rooms. One was like daycare, and then one was like getting ready for like the productions that we were putting on. So they took her back there, and then this one guy comes on, John, I think his name is, and he posts on my videos about Radiant. Actually, he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your hurt," or whatever, and he's nice. But he came out, and he was like, "Whoa, there's like a fog in there." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, the whole room's like misty and foggy." Well, I did not see that with my own eyes. And so I thought it was just kind of strange, and everybody had been like having a weird time that night, like crying and stuff. So how, I mean, what's foggy? And they were just gonna, her parents were out of town. She lived with her mom still, her mom and dad, and her parents were out of town. They were just gonna send this girl home by herself. And I mean, they had done their production. I mean, he was like holding her down and like saying all these horrible things to her, and they were just gonna let her go home. And I didn't really know her that well, but I was like, I can't like go home like this. I was like, "You can come to my house and stay at my house, you know, have my daughter sleep in mine and my ex-husband's bed." And then you know, made up my daughter's bed for her, and she stayed there, and I was sitting on the bed with her. I just wanted to talk to her, make sure she was okay. And I said, "How do you feel?" And she's like, "He was acting like it wasn't me." And then I was like, "Oh, damn," because I was kind of thinking like, "Man, this ain't right." And she was like it wasn't me, but it was me. And people think that I was like possessed. It was me, and he wouldn't let me go, and I didn't like it. And I was like, "Oh my God," you know, I was like really upset about the whole thing, because first of all, they're gonna let her go home by herself after all of that. Like, they're done with their production. She's exorcised from a demon, and so they're gonna let her go. Which I have to tell people, like, if you hear about these exorcisms, or they're wanting more people to do exorcisms, this is bullshit. These people that are doing these Catholic priests that are doing these exorcisms, they're making deals with demons. They're not actually doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing something else. So, I mean, if you're going to go with the whole hocus pocus, you might as well just go all the way and find it all out. Learn the information. But, so I thought that was very sad. And after that, you know, she could have never been a normal person in our church. You know what I'm saying? Because people were looking down on her. And they always did. And then when she would have, like, problems, or she would reach out for help, like with the church body, especially the younger females, you know, they would laugh. I would be at the house and hanging out with them or whatever, and they would laugh at her. They would say, "Oh God, you know, Heather's seeing, you know, faces in the mirror, and she's scared of her reflection. We have to go over there and pray for her." You know, and I'm just like, don't then. If your heart's not in it, then just fuck off. You know, that's what I was thinking, like, and why are you even telling me this? You know, like, it's one of those things. And but I do not believe that she was possessed. Demonic oppression, whatever you want to call that, which is really like oppression from like your own dark side. But she was always trying to, that's what matters, and she was always trying to do the right thing. We had a Bible study all the time. We would go to Borders, and we would be actually attacked when we did Bible study together. Like, one time we were doing Bible study together at Borders, and this guy came out of nowhere, came up to us, started like talking in a different language to us, and then saying that he wasn't a child molester, that the 8-year-old girl liked him, and that she was the one flirting with him. Now he's got to pay the price because the 8-year-old liked him. And we were just like, what is this? Like, who is this person? And we never saw him again. It was just like, we're just going like, and she's just looking at me. we just laughed. We're like, fuck this. Or I was like, fuck this. So we left. And, I mean, this girl's Bible, like, I'm not kidding. She hadn't even been, oh, where's my Bible? She hadn't even been saved for like 6 months. And this chick's Bible was full of tabs, like colored tabs, every certain page, and they would have like things about her own life or what she found interesting like on them. And I remember looking at her Bible and thinking, dang, this chick has read her Bible, like dang, you know, like way more than I did in my whole life. So so I have respect for that. But my point is that these churches in town, the elders in the church are taking advantage of these younger people that are coming out of high school, and they're impressionable and they're moldable, and they're taking advantage of them. And I recently sat down with somebody else who they have. I wish I knew the name to their academy. They have a Christian academy here in town, and these people are from Bethel Assembly of God, originally from I think the Ecclesia Temple. And then, don't quote me on that, I don't know. You can quote me, but you can quote me that I don't know. But I think it's more important to point out that these individuals are the ones who brought the Toronto movement to Visalia. And I don't know if you know what the Toronto movement was. You know what it was? The Toronto was like, and like, arr, 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 and people were like, arr, 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 like, like barking like dogs, and like, like acting all crazy, and like people in town were like, whoa, that is like something else. And then they were all just like, we have an anointing. Like, that's literally like acting like a beast. Get it? So that was crazy to me, and I thought it was very sad because their son, I think his name is, they have two twins, and one of them works for the Polaris Project. So when I found out about the human trafficking, which the girls are coming from the third world countries here in town, who was utilizing them, where they were utilizing them at, I'm talking addresses, not like, oh, in this area, addresses, and what churches were involved, and specific church pastors, and how it was connected to the Mexican drug cartel. And they did not want anything to do with it, you guys. They, I mean, I had like such hard evidence on human trafficking locally. They washed their hands of it. They didn't want anything to do with it, and I had hard evidence, and people that have driven these girls to these houses so that church pastors in town can sodomize them, or can be sodomized by them. And it's, I don't even know, which is neither. It's just horrible. And so they did not want anything to do with it. I personally, myself, I just like, they don't want anything to do with helping unless it takes them out of the country so they can have their like PC, politically correct Christian vacation. That's how I feel about it. Now, I have to share on a side note that I think it was First Presbyterian. I don't know what premise they went there under, if there was an ulterior motive or not, but I thought it was cool that they, this is up in Cafe 210, that they went to Mexico and taught them how to actually get the water and filter it. And they taught them how to work on the filtration system. They taught them how to build it, how to build more. And so I thought that was really cool because, you know, it's not about like, I don't know. Yeah, check it out for yourself if you're here local. I'm not going to get into too much because I obviously have a little bit of thing with the churches in town. So that's basically it. And we had a couple in town that ran a church go to jail because they were using the Sunday school kids in internet pornography. So their kids were going to Sunday school, and they were using the kids in Sunday school in the pornography, and then they were selling it on the internet. These are demons, you guys. These are not people. Rest assured, these people are not people. That's where I find solace in this, is that they're not people. And so it's very evil, and it's not you and it's not me, you know. So, that's, and then also I had this guy as I had Mr. Ainley as a history teacher. And way back in 1996, they were doing a lot of anti-Muslim, anti-Saudi Arabia, anti-Iraq rhetoric. Like when we were supposed to be learning world history, we would just be learning about Iraq, and we would just be learning about Saudi Arabia, and he would just be telling us horror stories about those people, how they believed in the devil, how they worshiped this Allah, the devil, and how, I mean, just it was just over and over and over and over and over again. Every day it was something new, and I think people that had him at Golden West would attest to that and back me up on that. And it was a lot of like, he even had a lady come in with just like the all the black thing, which is the eyes open, and you know, this is what you would have to wear, and this is how they treat women, and this is what they do, and like all this other stuff. But then on the same hand, he was like basically like he would tell you all that, and then he would say, I want everybody to get a piece of paper out and write your question that you have for God on your piece of paper. What question, if you could ask God any 3 questions, what would it be? What would your questions be? And he would say, these are the questions you can't ask or whatever. And then we would pass the questions up, and then he would answer our questions like as though he was God or he had the answers. But then when I call him about human trafficking here in Visalia, coming from the same place that his son is supposed to be working to help, they don't want anything to do with it. They just did not want anything to do with it. And because people are afraid. They're afraid for their own children. Like, they don't mind going into third world countries and stirring up shit, but they don't want to do it here in their local communities because they're afraid of their grandchildren, or they're afraid for their grandchildren, you know, and stuff like that. Or they're afraid of their reputations, whatever. So I sat with another friend who knew these people, and who had friends who attended this academy that they do. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. And she said that it is like a straight up cult. That like the friends that are in it, they won't talk to her anymore. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. You have to completely isolate yourself. You're not allowed to really, you're just basically brainwashed, and you're in this cult, and they're basically like programming and conditioning people. And I cannot reveal that person's name until she's ready. But hopefully she'll do an interview with me and talk to me about it. I know a lot of people. It's really hard to break away from your church body because it is like a family. And so it is very painful. And so I think when you make that final break, it's like, you know, it's painful. It's like there's like a loss that happens. It's like, man, it's something I've been holding on to, but it wasn't really real. And there's a lot of other things about that church, that Radiant Church, that a lot of people that were at Savior's have said about them going back together and becoming one church. And there's some things, like for instance, there's a few children who are indigo children that were attending the one church, and now they have to attend what is now Radiant, which was that church that kind of like combined. And the kids, they just can't be in there. Like for some reason, when they do the worship, when they do the music, like one of their daughters just like, I can't hear it. And like she's gone to lots of other churches and she's done lots of other things, but there's something about the music at that church. It's not the acoustics, it's not anything, that she can't hear it. It gives her a weird feeling, and they all kind of get like a weird feeling inside, but this one kid is just like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't like the feeling. Go anywhere else, but I don't like the feeling. And when the kids are starting to say that kind of stuff, you need to pay attention. But this school, School of Ministry, whatever it is, basically, I mean, everybody that I know that's been in it has said that it's a cult, it's brainwashing. And I'm all for reprogramming, but who's doing the programming? Who's a programmer? You know, so we should be our own programmers. Why don't we have knowledge to do that for ourselves? I mean, I do, you know, but not everybody's been blessed and lucky enough to, you know, do things like, you know, Tony Robbins and stuff like that. So in any case, I just wanted to share that about this churches here in town, and that was the History Makers Conference. And also all the other churches in town were really pissed off about that performance that we did. They said that everything that we were doing was satanic, and it was like voodoo, and that it was ritualistic. And I guess First Assembly of God is actually the church that came against them the most, because we were doing dances from all over the world. So we did like Indian, we did like Spanish, we did some Native American, we did like Swahili, we did like certain dances that were from all over the world. So the other churches were like saying that what we were doing was like satanic. So we don't really know what we were doing. And if you learn about just some research into Michael Jackson and what the things that he was talking about before he died, you will find out that those dances are voodoo. Most of those dances that you see on TV and all that stuff, they are voodoo dances. They're from black people. Black people made up dancing. If there wasn't, I took music appreciation, I'm telling you, that one thing we learned in music appreciation is if it wasn't for black people, we would all be doing ballet right now. We would all still be talking like this, doing ballet. Okay? So, please, that shit is from voodoo. But find out what voodoo is. You need to find out what voodoo is, what witchcraft really is, what really are these things. Why were they killing people? Why did they kill the Essenes? Why did they kill the witches? You know, this type of stuff. So you've got a lot of people that are doing witchcraft, doing voodoo, tapping into these dark elements, these archonic energies and archonic forces. And then you've also got all of the Christians, or dare I say light workers, you know, Christians. I love the song on 88.9 here. It's called, it's K-Dev. But they're like, I'm the bright and morning star. I'm like, holy shit, dude. I'm the bright and morning star. awesome. Lucifer, awesome. And you've got Morningstar soy patties. When I go to Cafe 210, I take like my soy breakfast patties for them to put on my croissant, which I'm all, I like one Lucifer croissant, please. And they're always like, this bitch is crazy. But I'm just saying, there's those words going on. Just pay attention. So that's what I have a lot of experiences with churches here in town. I've been to a lot of different churches. Plus, I was in the Set Free Tribe from Anaheim when they came here, and so we actually were touring churches. So I've been to churches in Woodlake and Rosie and all these different places because we toured. We went around and we did like, it's like a dancer and stuff. Like we dance, how you down with G-O-D? Yeah, you know me. Like did all that stuff, I'm gonna party like it's, I forget, it was like 1990. It's like the 1999 song, but it's all about the rapture and stuff. It's crazy. But I did all that stuff. So I have been to a lot of churches, and then I have a policy that when someone, or I used to have a policy that when someone would ask me to go to church with them, I would just say yeah. So I've been to a lot of different churches, including the Christian Temple at Upper Synanon, which overlooks Lower Synanon, and I have seen the Muslim regimes there with their tanks and their guns, and like the people came out there like, you can't stand on this ledge too long and look, they might shoot you. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, we're fine to be up here on Krishna's land, but we can't spend too much time watching them what they're doing. And I was like, noted. So, and I've been to Catholic Church and Lutheran Church, pretty much all the churches, and I would say that, yeah, all the churches are Catholic now. I just got somebody sent me something from Radiant Church, and it said, celebrating the children's ministry Ash Wednesday. So now they're doing Ash Wednesday. And I swear on this email it says, there will be no regular programming for the children. I was like, wow, they just like straight out said there will be no regular programming, not service, ministry, programming. And I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, these people know what they're doing. Trust me, they know what they're doing. And just for the record, I did apologize to Tiffany for the way that I handled it. But there was no forgiveness there. There was none. So that shows you who these people are. Because I was really sick, too. Like, you guys don't know, because I was, like, covering myself, or, it just looked okay, or whatever. But I was very sick during a lot of my videos. And so sometimes I was over-emotional, and I had, this Morgellons, or these skin spiders, which they mess with your hormones, because they feed off of your blood, and they affect the hormones in your blood. And they turn your body acidic. They do all kinds of stuff. And so, I kind of felt like I could have handled it better. But, I apologized, and there was no forgiveness from her. And so, which that shows, it just further proves who these people are. And, what else was I going to say? There was just more, but I don't even want to get into it. She's like, I am so sick of talking about it. But the churches in this town are evil. Most of them, not all of them, but, really most of them are. And all these churches are being ran by the papacy. So, that's just the way it is. I didn't make that up. You can check into their tax exemption status and what they have to go through to get it. It is very real. So while all these people stand at church and do their singing, lift their hands in bear worship, and do all these things that they don't understand, and give their money, and do all this stuff, and the people that run the church lord over them like Mount Olympus, Tony's still staying true to what I know. And I was true in high school, I was true through college, I was true through being a housewife, being a displaced housewife, and now being what I am now. And I have the truth, and I know the truth, and that's the only thing that matters right now is what is true. And I posed the same question that my mentor Jeff King posed, and that was this: what don't we know, and why don't we know it? I will do another video on the church grid system, and then that will really cook your noodle. So peace and blessings, y'all.